Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar about how to become an Agile coach. It's 11 o'clock now in Europe. For me in Helsinki, it's 12, as you can see, and we are ready to kick off the session. Before we start, I'm going to record the session, so don't worry if you can't stay the whole time or if you missed us live, you can always watch the recording afterwards. My name is Sofia, and I'm going to be your host today, and with me I have Martin and Magnus. They will very shortly introduce themselves to you as well. For today's session, please use the chat to engage with us and make sure that you're chatting with everybody, not only with the panelists and the hosts, so that it's a transparent discussion about the topic. All your good questions are very welcome, so please use the Q&A. You can find it beside the chat function and keep your questions there, and we'll have a look at them after the session today. Martin, I think you can go first, and then Magnus, and see you soon. Enjoy the session.
Thanks, Fia. So hello, everyone. My name is Martin from Weissenberg. I'm an Agile coach. I live in Helsinki, Finland, working tightly with Fia and also with Magnus. I have quite a long background from being an Agile coach. Been working since 2007, 2008, approximately, helping others do Scrum initially, and then later on helping others be Agile, which is a different thing, as you all know. From 2015, since 2015, I've been a certified enterprise coach by the Scrum Alliance. We'll return to those certifications later here. But I've been on a kind of a journey from thinking of Scrum as a process, something that you do, and if that's the approach, then why would you need to coach people, or you know, coaching is unnecessary, and then realizing that actually coaching is super necessary when you need to help people, or when people need to become more agile, want to become more agile. So that's a little bit about my background and my personal journey. Magnus.
Great. I'm Magnus Kollberg. I'm living in Sweden, also in Stockholm, and also an Agile coach. Kind of similar background as Martin. Started up with kind of Scrum, focusing on the process or the framework. And basically since 2000, could it be 10? I've been an Agile coach more or less full time. I'm a certified team coach through Scrum Alliance and an accredited certified coach from ICF, which we will get back to.
Great. So I took the liberty of sharing my screen so that you can see a little bit. We've prepared slides on Miro, and let's see how that works out. So the general idea today is we'll cover some of the topics, basically what is an Agile coach, a little bit about what an Agile coach isn't. We'll talk about the value an Agile coach can bring to a company, to an organization. And then we'll talk about how to become one, including, of course, certifications, because they tend to signal that somebody knows what they are talking about or knows what they are doing as an Agile coach. So that's what we have ahead of us. I was thinking, or with Magnus, we were planning something like, half an hour perhaps on this one, and then 20 minutes of questions and answers, and you can write questions in the chat, and then we can pick them up from there and see what kind of answers we can get for you in this session. And then we'll take the last 5 minutes to wrap up and close for the day. One thing, I'm recovering from Corona. I've had it now for several days, and I'm up and about, but I'm still a little bit tired, and you may be able to hear from my voice that it's not exactly what it used to be, but still. I have Magnus here as my safety net, should anything go wrong. And of course, I'm behind Zoom, so you're all safe and sound, I hope. Great. Should we then move to the first slide, which is about Agile coaching Yeah, one of the things that we like to bring in when talking about agile coaching is basically the competency framework. So typically you define an agile coach as a servant leader, somebody who helps organizations on their journey to become more agile, more resilient. Companies that want to become something else, the companies who want to become more lean or who want to improve their processes and so on. An agile coach can also help, of course, but then it's no longer about agile coaching. It might be organizational development or some kind of a transformation. But I think these definitions that we have here on the right, a servant leader who helps organizations transform, or an agile coach helps organizations, teams, and individuals adopt agile practices and methods while embedding the agile values and mindsets. Those are fairly abstract summaries, and that's why we like to bring in also the Agile Coach Competency Framework that you may have seen before. So this is initially by Lisa Adkins. There's several different versions floating around on the web, but generally splitting it in at the top you have the agile lean concepts, the theory, knowing what it is about, so the kind of the topic that we are coaching people about. On the right hand side we have coaching and facilitating, which means generally helping people move forward. On the left hand side we have teaching and mentoring, which are skills useful to transfer knowledge. So basically teaching is when you formally through a training or just by talking for 10 minutes, you transfer the knowledge that you have to people, and you can validate, you can ask them questions like, okay, now what was the key point that I just told you, and now that you have heard the theory, what would you like to do next now with the new knowledge that you have? And mentoring is more about telling stories. Sometimes you sit down together and do things together, but it's also about transferring experience and transferring knowledge. And then at the bottom we have mastery, technical, business, and transformation mastery. So these all are important competencies that you just need to have when you work as an agile coach. Any thoughts, Magnus, that you would like to chip in?
I think you summarized it well. So I think perhaps that is a pretty, if you look at this, it's a pretty broad role, and several of those competences are professions in themselves, like so teaching, for example, or professional coaching, or even facilitation. So it's
Exactly.
kind of a big bite.
Yeah, you're right. So there are professional coaching is, as you mentioned, it is a job in itself. So you have management coaching, you have lifestyle coaching, you have career coaching. It's basically, you can make a career out of being a coach. You can also, as a facilitator, for example, there are professional facilitators who do in different ways. Some of them do actually facilitation, others work on visual facilitation. So kind of focusing or helping people focus at the problem at hand, on the problem at hand. And of course, training, there's a certified Scrum trainer, for example, somebody who is making teaching into a career. And then technical mastery, business mastery, and transformation mastery, all of those, and being agile lean practitioners, that's what you find in companies. Scrum Master is, for example, an agile lean practitioner teaching the team about those topics. So let's skip on then to the next frame here. So why do companies hire agile coaches? What's the general idea of having this person in a company? They don't actually do anything, right? They just go around, talk to people, they ask questions, and Why should we have this one guy instead of having one person to come to coach us, instead of hiring, for example, one more engineer who can actually get stuff done and help us deliver? So the reason is that when you're working with on something, you're doing operative work, it's so easy to get sucked into the details, especially if you're under pressure, if you have a deadline looming and you have, let's say, as often happens, you have a scope and you have a time box and you must deliver before a specific date. Companies may say that they are agile, but sometimes you find companies that are agile in name only. They may be running Scrum, but then they have a huge list of requirements and the teams are struggling to get things done. And those are the kind of organizations that actually do need agile coaches the most. So what an agile coach can do then is to hold up a mirror to the whole organization. So basically raise visibility and awareness, show people where they are, what they are doing, how things are actually progressing. And it can range from basically working with a single team, helping them to see the flow on the board or maybe the lack of flow on the board. It may be a question of visualizing dependencies between teams and how all the synchronization points and all the dependencies, how they are slowing the whole company down, for example. At different levels, there's different things that you can raise visibility about. Particularly powerful, I think, is the ability to work on the coordination level. So having, let's say, all the projects that are going on visible and then helping people make sense of them and helping people focus. Another value that an agile coach or one of the values that an agile coach brings is the knowledge, basically. So what is agile about? How does Scrum work? We're talking about the lean thinking, all these, queuing theory. You can bring in the thinking models that are needed to make things work. And this goes hand in hand with the visibility. So, sometimes you look at the team and you can see that people are overloaded 110, 120%. And then you basically ask the manager and the manager is like, oh yeah, these guys they are so in demand, that they are, I'm so proud of my people. There's so much work for us to do, and then the same guy goes to the team and asks, do you all have enough work to do now? And the team is like, yeah, we have more than we can handle. And they might have the wrong thinking model, for example. They might be thinking or valuing different things than an agile team would do. And so as an agile coach, you can bring your knowledge, you can inject this knowledge, you can teach leaders, for example, how do you manage a self-managing team, or if a team is self-organizing, what does that mean for me as a leader? What do I need to do now, and so on. You can show them in practice. It's about mentoring, role modeling. It's about giving advice to people sometimes, although that is a bit dangerous, because if you give advice, then you are, as a coach, you're kind of responsible. You also want the organization itself to keep the responsibility for those things. And then, of course, challenging people. We pulled it out with Magnus as a separate topic here, improvement. So basically coaching leaders, individuals and teams, and you can challenge them a little bit. So what problems are you working on right now with your processes, for example? And it may be that the answer is that, what do you mean? We don't have any problems here, and so on. And then you need to help them understand and drill down. And so the outcome, of course, of all this facilitation and coaching is, first of all, improved leadership, improved self-organization. Because companies want a shorter time to market, they want faster turnaround times, and the more you are centralizing your decisions, the more difficult, the longer it will take for the information to trickle in, and then centrally some decision is being made, and then the results are, or the orders are trickling out to the edges of the organization again. And of course, you get great coherence. You can get good standardization across the company. But then again, you also lose out that it introduces delay. You're making decisions isolated from the actual hands-on information. And so the decisions tend to be a little bit iffy, to say the least. So how do you balance that? How do you get centralization on some things, but basically, or you get centralization based on decisions made out in the periphery, in the Scrum teams themselves, where you are in contact with the customers. And that's how you improve both quality, and you improve the time to market when teams are being able to actually make decisions on the spot.
Seems like you froze a bit, Martin.
It seems so.
Yeah. I can add on while we're waiting for Martin to unfreeze. I think it's an important thing is that you're able to explain what value you provide if you're asked to. So think of how, kind of an elevator pitch for what value you bring, because those questions pops up during now and then, and we should be able to crystal clear explain that. So that's a practice we can do at home. TTM stands for time to market. So that's kind of it. Let me see.
I think Martin's computer just crashed a little bit, so if you can Magnus just
crashed.
share the screen and
Yeah,
continue, that would be good. Sorry, guys.
Second. Here we should go. And we were kind of around that one, the value of an agile coach.
Perfect.
So let's look a little bit about where we can continue with this one, perhaps, for example. It's worth mentioning also that we work on different levels. Like you get a strategic level, perhaps focusing on goals and the strategy for the organization you're supporting, or you get the coordination level, which is like between the teams and how to enable flow and work with dependencies between the teams. And then you got the team level. So as coaches, we might have different skills or competences to work on those different levels. Might be that I'm a team coach, I'm more kind of into focusing on the team group dynamics and the frameworks and Scrum for just the team, or I'm a master in Kanban, for example, to help the organization on the coordination level, or I'm on the top level, or I can be all of them, of course, if I'm super experienced. So that is a little bit about the model, which I think is helpful, at least for me, to kind of divide the organization and think of where am I, who am I supporting, and in all of this also we are coaching. What are we coaching? Basically, we can say sometimes we're coaching the system, but the systems consist of individuals and teams. So basically, we are coaching individuals and teams, right? So there needs to be an individual, there needs to be a team to coach. To focus on, to help them improve and do their work. So let's look a little bit about the challenges we got. And of course, you all probably can raise hundreds or more challenges, but some challenges when it comes to the role as an agile coach, and this is kind of cleared out a bit recently for me, to those two things, like lack of agreement. So, and with that, I mean, what are we trying to achieve? What are your team or your group or organization trying to achieve? What is the goal? What is the direction? How do you know you're getting there? And how do you know along the way that it seems like you're getting there? And what do you don't do, and what do you do? Some kind of expectations for what are you responsible for as an agile coach, and what will you not do, and what expectations do you have on your client, the individual or the team. So clearing that out is a super important thing. Might be tough anyway, but sometimes you get in the wrong foot, and you realize after a while that this agreement is pretty unclear. You can always press reset and take that conversation again. And you'll see, we started on the wrong foot. Let's sit down and agree what we do, our expectations between each other. The other one is the ownership. So with ownership, is like we need to be aware that if we are changing a process, for example, that people are working with, perhaps it's better to co-create that process together with the people involved with it. So we don't end up designing a nice Kanban system for them and then expect them to work according to it. It's better to help the people and mentoring them to develop that themselves. So keep the ownership on the right place. So kind of don't work as a contractor for them. Don't kind of do the job for them, but rather mentoring and help them to do that. And I think that comes back a little bit on the way you go into this. If you're there to grow resilience, like there to help the organization help themselves, I think it touches it tells you something about the ownership where it should be. Those two things are things that I stumble upon many times when I talk to internal coaches about the challenges they have. It could be a lack of agreement, or they have taken ownership of something, and then they wonder why people don't want to follow their kind of nice Kanban board. Martin, any comments? Happy to have you back, by the way.
Happy to be back. My computer decided to crash.
Yeah.
But better the computer than me, I suppose. So, but I think what you highlighted here are the two root causes of most problems. Mm-hmm. So we see agile coaches who are being channeled into, let's say you're responsible for a handful of teams, and the teams don't have Scrum Masters because they don't need to, because you as an agile coach should be able to handle that, right? And so that's all down to a lack of agreement, or maybe the wrong kind of agreement. And then also kind of you end up sometimes running the show. Let's say you're running the portfolio management system, or you are driving the communities of practice or something like that. So, and then when you try to hand it over to the Scrum Masters, they don't want to accept it or capture that because they feel it's convenient to have you around, for example. So most of those challenges, most of the challenges can be traced back, I think, to these two topics: having the wrong kind of agreement, or not letting people, or people not understanding that you are not the owner, that they are the owners of their own. So we talked previously, Magnus and I, we talked previously about, it's like ice hockey or something. The coach doesn't go into the rink to score goals, or I mean football or what have you. The coach is staying there outside and helping the team see what's going on. But the coach doesn't go in there and score the goals. That doesn't really work. Cool. Back to you, Magnus.
Yeah, let's move a little bit over here. So we're thinking, let's talk a little bit about how to become an agile coach. What does the journey look like? And perhaps it's not super linear. You go from left to right. But if we look at the different kind of steps here, or things you could do, is to get started, for example, find a mentor, find someone who you think is great at one of those competences, and follow them, more or less. If you find a nice facilitator who you think doing a great job, then team up with that person, ask them if they can kind of help out a bit. Find a good organization. You had some good thoughts about that, Martin. Can you share that?
Yep. So generally the idea is that if you work in an organization that is agile in name only, for example, there are those who think still that agile is Scrum is a process, agile equals Scrum. There's a lot of misconceptions, or I've seen companies that are setting up an agile coaching department, but then they don't know what coaching is, or they grow so fast that you get all kinds. And so they end up doing what is not coaching basically, but or going in and organizing for people. They go in and run the show basically, or tell people you do this, you do that. Sometimes this comes with the big models, the big agile models that you know this is exactly what we should look like, and now we need to put everything in order. Chop chop chop. We need to have the 2-month, 3-month increments, and we need to have all these roles and so on. And so it's a coaching. It's not about coaching. It's about deploying a process, and that's a danger sign to keep an eye out for. And if you happen to find yourself in such a situation where you have you are working in an organization that has no clue what agile is or agile coaching is, it will be very slow going. If you want to become a good agile coach, then you need to do a lot of work also outside the organization, picking up the right kind of ideas, applying the right kind of ideas. I mean, the same goes for any job. If you're a junior software engineer, let's say, and you work in a company where people have the wrong conceptions about software development, you will get the wrong kind of experience, you will pick up the wrong kind of tools, the wrong kind of approaches, and then getting out of that trap can take a long time. Same goes for coaching.
So practice, the last thing on that note is perhaps practice as a Scrum Master is a good thing. Like if you haven't done it before, because then you can kind of empathize a bit better with the teams and see how their reality looks like for them. So that is, I find it super useful to have that experience in the back of your head.
Yeah, so do I. I've spent my time as a Scrum Master, and that was actually taking the book, the silver-colored book. I think it's called Project Management with Scrum, and then just opening the book and going like, what could I learn from here? Oh, it's time for a retrospective, and then kind of trying to go by the book and doing it, and then seeing the puzzle pieces fall into place, and somehow being there, asking the right kind of questions. It's super useful to have that experience.
But the education, like get educated instead, like and also the competence framework that we looked at the beginning is a pretty good thing to use to assess yourself, like on a scale, where are you when it comes to facilitation, when it comes to coaching, or the other competences, and go for the ones that you find most valuable or most interested, to try to kind of grow yourself a bit and find relevant trainings. Of course, is always good, and start reading. I mean, nowadays there is so much books and trainings within Agile, so it can be hard to find where to go, but finding a mentor will probably help you a bit to put you in the right direction when it comes to trainings and also reading.
Yeah, that's right. About the mindset, that's very important. It's comparatively simple to learn Scrum and Agile, lean thinking, and all of those. That's stuff you can pick up in a book. You can read the books, you can watch what people are doing, and so on. But the mindset is going to be super tricky. It's because a coach, when you're coaching, you are in a way, it's like playing a kind of a role for the team. So you're wearing your agile coach hat as you go out there, and if I would go there like Martin, I would crack a lot of jokes. I would be sarcastic. I would do a lot of things that I don't do as an agile coach. But as an agile coach, I ask different questions. I wear kind of a coaching identity, and I ask different questions. I observe different things. I pick up ideas. I formulate hypotheses, and this mindset is very, very important. It's kind of a role or a hat that I'm wearing, an identity that I'm pulling on when I go out there and coach. It can be a bit wearing at times. At the end of the day, when I've been coaching 8 hours, it's the most I want to do is to go and sit on the sofa and go like, this has been a heavy day. But there are some thinking tools that you can use. One of them is to balance between all of these. We mentioned coaching, we mentioned mentoring, teaching, advising, role modeling, or contracting, all of those things, and trying to stay in the middle, in the coach role, because it's being a coach, asking neutral questions. It's kind of the safest and least invasive approach, and being aware of these, that okay, I'm trying to give advice, maybe I shouldn't at this time, maybe instead I should mentor people. I should tell, instead of saying you should do this, you should do that, what I can do is tell about another team which was in a similar situation and this was their choice. Or I can teach a little bit. I can say, okay, here's the relevant piece of theory. Now that you have this new knowledge, what would you like to do? Or what do you think is the best way forward? We can help people sometimes kind of choose between three or four, list options and then choose between the options. Also constantly reflecting on how you are doing and then adapting or improving. So basically you try out something new. You plan, okay, here's the situation. Last week, I would have done it in the usual way. This week, because I've read a new book and I want to try something, I'm going to chip in with a new question or do something totally different from what I would have done previously. And then you can reflect on that and you might be able to improve. So getting the mindset right is difficult because it involves your habit, who you are, what questions you ask, how you interact with people. But getting those Scrum and Lean thinking pieces into place is simpler because that's just knowledge. Basically, you don't need to change the way you are, who you are, basically, to become Lean. Some words about getting involved. Maybe I'll talk about that also. So it's important, first of all, to basically getting involved means finding people, talking to them, exchanging ideas and experiences. Agile used to be, 20 years ago or more, it used to be a kind of a learning community. People were trying things in practice empirically, and then they were sharing knowledge across the web. And then others would pick that up. They would take it, they would think about it, they would try out new things, and then they would feed their experiences back. And it became a kind of a learning community. And now something happened 10, 15 years ago, and Agile became a solutions community in a way. So we have all the big models. We have everyone is coming with solutions. You want to become a coach? All right. Then you take this, jump on the train and boom, boom, boom. In 2 years' time, you'll be a coach. Or you have 10 teams and you want to scale Agile. Well, boom, boom, boom. Here's our solution. Here's our solution. Here's this solution. There's at least like 4 or 5 different solutions to the problem of scaling up Agile. Sometimes you even need to invent problems that are not there in order to find those solutions. What I would like to say, what Magnus and I would like to say here is please get back to don't forget about the learning, right? So find like-minded people, join the local community we have here in Finland. Well, it's called Agile Finland. And in Sweden, I believe it's called Agila Sverige, right?
That's right.
Yes, or maybe you have in your company, or you can start up. If you're working for a bigger company, there's usually an Agile Council or an a kind of a community of practice that you can join. But you should not only participate and listen and learn, you should also help out organize events and bring back, share what you have learned. So present, write, bring back the learnings, and then so that you can contribute to the community. It's not only about listening there.
Good. What do we have next?
Wait, go down, move downwards.
Here.
Yay.
Here we are.
Yay. So then a couple of words about the certifications. So why are certifications important, first of all? I'll talk a little bit about Scrum Alliance certifications, and then I'll let Magnus loose, I suppose, on the ICF certifications. But certifications send a signal. It's all about the signaling. So if somebody says that, hey, I'm an ICF PCC, it tells me, or even an ACC, it tells me that this person knows what coaching is. And they've done, I think it's 100 hours of coaching, that they can training, and this has all been monitored by master coaches who know what coaching is. And so in the end, I know that I can trust that person with coaching. They know what coaching is, and they know what approach to take. So it is a signal, basically. You're showing people that you are. They don't need to think about it anymore. You know what coaching is, for example. Otherwise, it takes a lot of time. It takes hours to figure out if somebody knows coaching or if they are good at it, actually. So they might know the theory, but then when you drop them in a team, they might not float, so to speak. So what we've done here is we've listed a couple of so the International Coaching Federation is the golden standard when it comes to pure coaching. And Magnus, would you like to talk a little bit about that? Then I can talk more about the Scrum Alliance, perhaps.
Yeah, I can do that. Well, that is, ICF is the International Coaching Federation. It's like, professional coaching, more or less, only. Not about lean or agile or anything like that. And it's kind of a tough journey to go through those. It's like, if I put on the numbers below those certifications, you got 60 hours of education for the first one, which is accredited certified coach. And then you need some mentoring hours from someone who has higher certifications than you, and you need 100 hours of individual coaching, like one-on-one coaching. And then basically when it comes to the PCC and MCC, you see the numbers increase. So it takes some time to gain this. And I think ICF also have gained some traction the last year. So the certifications are getting more and more known, to put it like that. And it's pretty good built up, I think, because it's hard to get them without the practice. You need the coaching thing. You need to practice the coaching and prove that you have done that. So it's a journey, but it's a very rewarding journey for you as an individual also, if you take it on. So I highly recommend at least going for the first one, or start up with a super short one, just the 2 days. There usually are 2-day classes out there. You can just try it out and then jump on the big train if you find it valuable. So I think that is perhaps on the level of ICF.
Yeah,
Martin, you mentioned
that's the pure.
That's the pure coaching.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, please.
And that's one of the foundational skills, really the basic skill when you want to become an agile coach. The Scrum Alliance builds on top of that, and I think I might guess that most of the people who are on this call right now, or on this webinar, following the webinar, most of you are at least CSMs, or maybe advanced CSMs. So those are considered maybe the foundational basic certifications by the Scrum Alliance. And these are, at least the initial ones, are intended to really help you work as a Scrum Master. So these trainings have a lot about the Scrum framework, obviously. The CSM is mostly about the Scrum framework, and then there's some additional things about how can I serve as a Scrum Master, how can I serve my organization, how can I serve my product owner, how can I serve the team. And then as you go, as you can see, these are basically a classroom event. These are trainings. The ICSM already starts having homework assignments. You need to provide at some point proof of that you have a specific expertise, that you have actually done things. The certified team coach and the certified enterprise coach, they require 1,000 hours and 2,000 hours of specifically agile coaching. I think it's a little bit easier to get those hours than those on the ICF side, where you typically have personal one-on-one coaching time, and you have fewer hours per day, so to speak, that you can use on that. But for the CTC and CEC team coaching, for example, if you're working with a team, you can easily capture, I don't know, 40, 50 hours for one team working with those guys. So there's that. The CTC and the CEC, by the way, are, together with the Certified Scrum Trainer, they are so-called guide level certifications. And what that means is that the guide level certifications can hand out CSM and CSPO certifications. So you can basically, through coaching as a CTC, you can, through coaching, you can then give people the CSM. They still need to take the exam, basically, but you can do this. These are a couple of the certifications that we trust. We know what they are. They are industry, they are credible. They have industry traction, ICF and Scrum Alliance. Also, IC Agile certifications have a good name in this industry. They tend to be a little bit more organized. You basically, you take 3 trainings or something, and then you are there, then you get that certificate. You need to submit an experience report, but they are easier to get, basically. So the CEC and the CTC and also the master, ICF master level, they are very, very difficult in a way. There's a lot of work involved in this. So but there are also other certifications that send the wrong signals. Remember that I mentioned that it is all about the signaling. If you say that I'm an ICF PCC, or if you say that I'm a CTC, then people will know what that you know what coaching is. However, there's a bunch of others. I'm not going to repeat them by name now, but there's one, for example, you pay the small price of $200. You take an online exam. I think it's 50 questions. You need to get 30 of them right. And then you immediately get your answer. And if you have 60% right, then you get your certification immediately as a PDF, right? So how much value, what value is that certification really? I mean, a monkey would get 50% right. Oh, and you have 10 times, if you fail, you can retry 10 times. So it's just a question of how many times you would like to retry. And so that kind of a certification, if somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm a certified coach, and here's my certificate," and if I see that one, it's a long minus. It's actually a negative certification. It shows me a negative signal. It tells me that this person doesn't know anything about coaching, right? So be careful also with these, so that you don't get the wrong kind of certifications.
Yes. What do you
Was that it?
Yep, I think it's it, because if I just move over here that I was planning to do just before, it's just a big question mark. And I guess that is kind of, perhaps we should open up for some questions. I see we have some in the chat, so I can stop sharing.
Oh.
So
That sounds like a really good idea. There have been quite some questions here going on in the background. So maybe we can start now that we're talking about the certifications. Here is a person asking if you have like a lot of experience and you've worked a lot with Scrum and Agile from before, but you didn't mind to take any certifications. Can you still become a coach? I mean, it's not only about certifications being an Agile coach, right?
That's right.
How can you move on if you have the experience but not the certs?
Well, anyone can call themselves an Agile coach. And that means that we get a lot of entries in this space. We get people who have been a Scrum Master for 1.5 years and go like, oh, I know this thing, and then they jump in. And at the other extreme, we have people who have been around for a long time and contributed. For example, coaches at so me and my colleagues, we wrote this one, the Hitchhiker's Guide to Agile Coaching, which you can download for free. By the way, I think we have the link somewhere. You can also buy it from Amazon if you want the hard copy.
The link is in the chat.
The link is in the chat. Great. Yeah, there it is actually. Strongly recommend it. It's well, we wrote it, but you know, it's I can say somehow that I wrote the book, a book on these things, and I like it. It's a good one. So we have all kinds. What I wanted to say is that in answer to the question is that I mean, if you have experience, you don't have any certifications, then what you might do is to get started as an Agile coach. Well, come in, the water is warm, dip a toe and see what you can do. Then get some coaching training if you haven't, and then basically do the assessment, assess yourself on the coaching competencies wheel, and then see where's my weak spot. What should I need? What should I learn more about? You can use a scale basically from I have absolutely no clue. I have read one book. I can do some things but need help. I can do many different things. I can work standalone, and then I can teach others, which is the highest score. Something like that, for example. I like that kind of a scale because it's really connected to what you feel comfortable doing and what you can do. And of course, there's the what's it called, the Kruger-Dunning effect, where initially you feel that you know you worked a couple of years and then you're like, whoa, I know this is simple, this is easy, and then as time goes by you realize that actually there's much more to it, and then kind of you work your way up again. Confidence goes first up sharply and then it drops, and then it rises again when you actually start knowing, when you have when your skills match your confidence level, generally speaking. But don't let that stop you from getting started. I think that's the important part.
Thank you. There has also been quite a lot of discussions around mentorship and how to find the right mentor and what to think about when you need a mentor, and especially if you don't have any Agile coaches internally. So I kind of took the freedom to type that they can also get in touch with us, since many of our coaches also act as mentors. But do you have any tips and tricks to kind of what to look for in a good mentor?
Good question. I have some ideas. So what you could do is to find, so if you engage with your local community, you'll find those people who are who others considered gurus. You'll get those names, you'll be able to pick them up, and take one of them out for lunch. You know, coaches will do a lot of things for free food sometimes. So grab one and pull them in the sleeve and say, hey, let's go for lunch. I have some questions about becoming an Agile coach. I would like to think about, is this a future for me? I'll pay you lunch. Let's meet up. And then you can ask questions like, what is it like? What does it take? How much work do I still have ahead of me if I started now? Here's where I am. Here's my, I've done my homework. Here's the competency chart, and I've scored myself, 3 points, 5 points, 2 points, 4 points, and so on. And then you can ask towards the end that if you like the person, it feels like there's a natural communication going. You can also ask that what would it take for you to mentor me. And some coaches they ask money for that kind of work. Others don't. So just ask around. And then I think most coaches are able, or you can mentor a couple of people, but not too many. So they might say that, sorry, I have my hands full. I'm already working with this and this and this person for free or for pay. So keep that also in mind, that there's only so many people. Many people. Yeah, I think we have, by the way, a webinar also on mentoring. Didn't we do one?
Yes. That's also around on our website. So if you're interested in that, you can listen in. But we are also happy to help you from the office side to get in touch with mentors. So just feel free to reach out. Don't be scared of us. Regarding the mindset of an agile coach, is this something you can also learn, or is it just a talent that someone has? Because I don't know if everyone can be a coach.
You can learn anything. I mean, if you take particularly coaching, and I think if you take that one as an example, it depends a bit about your background, what kind of demons you have. I mean, if you've had approach which is more direct and perhaps coming with solutions and solving problems for people, that might be a longer journey to change your way of looking at things. But it's definitely something you can learn, and with practice and kind of some good education will boost you on that. So definitely, and I agree with you, Martin, that this, when we say agile mindset, or the way of looking at things at empirical, we're looking for push and pull, or we're looking for what do we see as waste, for example. We perhaps borrow that from lean. All these kind of things, of course, you also can kind of learn, but it takes a bit more time compared to just a framework like Scrum, like that, which is a bit mechanically. You can just read into the different events and artifacts and roles and practice that a bit. The other one perhaps goes a bit deeper for you as a person, but you can definitely learn.
Thanks.
That said, there are people who find it easier somehow to pick it up, or maybe easier to listen, and people who listen more than they talk, for example. So, or people who are naturally empathetic or want to be helpful. There's specific personality types that lend themselves well for this, I suppose. So there's also that side of things.
Another question is like, how can you create or find a good balance being a coach and wanting to help the team, but not actually doing the work for the team? Is there some way to practice that?
Usually think of that. We kind of, I think of it like you're on the edge, right? As a coach, if you think of it as a circle and you got the team in the middle, you need to place yourself on the edge. Like if you go too close to the team, you get dragged into it. But if you back off too far, you kind of, they question, what are you doing here? And perhaps depending on where you feel you are, you can think of, if you're too far away because you're a bit afraid to step in, but start stepping in a bit. And the opposite side around, if you're in the middle, try to back up a bit. So I think, what do you think, Martin?
I think the concept of leverage is a good one if you want to kind of to stay to avoid or stay on the right side. So basically, the idea is that you teach the team, Scrum Master, product owner, and the developers themselves or the team members themselves. Your job is to teach them the right things to do, and your leverage points are typically the Scrum Master, because when you leave the team, you should also think that I'm not going to be here forever. I have 2 months with the team. I have so and so many hours per week for a specific time period. And then what can I do? What should the Scrum Master know when I'm done here? What should the product owner know when I'm done here? And then you focus on teaching those two guys, those two people, what they need to know. And obviously then opportunistically, if you find yourself in a situation where you need to do something, and then you can turn to the Scrum Master and say, hey, now we're going to deviate from the script. Let's do this, let's do that, and see how it takes us. And I'll explain later why I chose to do this, for example. Then you can debrief with the Scrum Master. So having as leverage points, you can multiply your time by working with multiple. You can set up, for example, a small community of Scrum Masters, and you can help 1 or 2 of the teams. But at the same time, you teach all the Scrum Masters what it is to be a good Scrum Master, for example, and then they can observe, they can come in and watch you work with one team, and then you have 4 people, 5 people sitting there and kind of making notes. You can ask everyone that they need to collect at least 1 sprint planning meeting, at least 1, one of each of all the Scrum events, and then having a briefing before, giving them the agendas and so on. Then you run the meeting as a role model, and then you have then you debrief afterwards, and then you have 5 Scrum Masters who have seen a good sprint planning meeting being done, for example. So that's your leverage. You do it once, and you have 5 Scrum Masters who can now do the same thing in their own teams. Okay, it takes a bit more time to become good at facilitating a sprint planning, but still, that's the general approach, I suppose.
Thank you. There are still, maybe we can put 2 questions into one. The first one is about how long should you be maybe a Scrum Master before continuing on the Agile journey, because you mentioned it's good to have some practice as a Scrum Master. And also then if you're at the very end of the journey, how can you become, for example, a CTC or a CEC when you have the CSP level already?
Okay, so I think being you need to be many sprints as Scrum Master. I think 3 months or 6 months is generally kind of the minimum to get a grip on what the role is about. So that I would consider sufficient for these purposes. Being there and solving the problems and seeing what kind of troubles are we facing as a team. And then at the end of the journey, becoming a CTC is perhaps the most complicated, because there's only kind of requirements listed. So these are the things that you need to the checkboxes that you need to fill in, but then it's kind of left open to you to do that. Okay, so you need to have 1,000 hours of Agile coaching. Well, go get it, and then nobody tells you what it actually looks like. Or you need to have so and so many hours of training and to become a CTC, and nobody tells you what trainings to take, because you are supposed to figure it out on your own. Think about where do I need to gain more. So, but generally, I think getting acquainted with those requirements, and then starting to record things, take photos of the work that you are doing, the workshops you are facilitating, capture things, and generally prepare to kind of to prove. And then eventually, if you keep it up, then in a year, 2 or 3, you may have enough to start the process.
Cool, thank you. And since time is running out, I just want to remind everyone here that you can also join our free community to kind of continue these discussions with our coaches. There are hot topics and lean coffees and everything else going on in the community. So please also come there. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Magnus and Martin also via LinkedIn, or you can reach us through our emails and so on. So just get in touch if you have any questions, and we will start you on the right path. Another cool way to also try out the Agile coaching, if it's for you or not, is to kind of try our e-learning as well that we have online available, where you can, in your own pace, do the e-learning there. So that's also warmly recommended from our side. Thank you guys for sharing today about how to become an Agile coach and all the valuable information. We are going to have a break now, unfortunately, with the webinars because of the summertime coming for us in Europe and in the Nordics. So we will be back in September. Very happy to see you then again. So stay tuned in all the social media channels for more info about that. Thanks, guys. And have a nice day.
Thanks,
it was really
everyone.
nice for everyone being here, also joining us today. So happy to see you next time.
And have a nice summer.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.